At the Greenvine headquarters, Mr. Hong Jungyan spoke calmly, suggesting he first explain the full scope of the situation to his associate. According to him, the Titan Bug King was currently surfacing and breeding in the forests northwest of SU District 7, guarded by a swarm of Bug King guards. Before the Bug King had fully retreated into the depths of the forest, his operatives discovered something invaluable: the crystallized tissue it secretes whenever it lays eggs. Mr. Hong Jungyan explained that this crystallized tissue plays a critical role in their research, specifically for the artificial crystal core project. But before he could finish his explanation, the man across from him cut in, noting that the military wouldn't just stand by and let them take it. Mr. Hong Jungyan agreed. He clarified that they wouldn't be taking it by force. Instead, the mission's goal was to steal it amidst the chaos, leaving no trace for the military to track. He added that as a member of the Greenvine Council, he had full confidence in the man before him, calling him the best operative for this type of mission. He quietly mentioned that Tang Yi would not be returning and expressed his hope that this man would successfully execute the task. He addressed him by his codename, Thousand Faces. Thousand Faces was a high-ranking A-level member of Greenvine. Without hesitation, Thousand Faces turned to leave, telling Mr. Hong to leave everything to him. The scene then shifted to the forest northwest of District 7. An armored vehicle slowly navigated the dense woods. Inside, Jin Ying looked ahead and asked about the current status of the area. Song Rui turned to the protagonist and asked what he was sensing. The protagonist replied that the situation was far worse than they had anticipated. He made a quick decision and ordered everyone to exit the vehicle, explaining that it would be better to proceed on foot. As they stepped out, they were met with a haunting sight: withered trees and a thick, unnatural smoke spreading through the air. The protagonist explained that the entire forest was blanketed in a heavy mist, and he could feel the presence of numerous aberrations. He warned everyone to stay alert and ensure they didn't get separated, emphasizing that they must remain within each other's sight inside the fog. The team agreed and began their trek. As they pushed deeper into the thick mist, one of the companions noted how far they had traveled, wondering if they had already covered 20 kilometers. Instructor Lim replied that continuing to drive in such conditions would have been far more dangerous. Moments later, Song Rui asked Jin Ying if she could use her abilities to clear the fog. Jin Ying shook her head, stating she wasn't capable of that. Suddenly, the protagonist tensed up and signaled everyone to halt. Song Rui, confused, asked what was wrong. The protagonist's answer was brief: something was coming. A sharp light suddenly streaked down from above. The protagonist shouted a warning, telling everyone to fall back immediately. The light slammed into the ground, triggering a massive explosion. After the tremors subsided, the protagonist checked if everyone was all right. Some replied they were safe, having sensed the incoming strike just in time. The protagonist explained that while he could feel the enemy's presence, the fog was too dense to pinpoint its exact location. But suddenly, the mist around them vanished. Standing before them was a gargantuan aberration with green skin. Instructor Lim realized then that the fog had been manifested from the Bug King's Crimson Fug energy. Song Rui noted that the creature was treating them like prey, absorbing the mist to mark the area as its personal hunting ground and ward off other aberrations. When Jin Ying scanned the beast, her device confirmed a terrifying reality: its Crimson Fug levels exceeded level 4, it was a behemoth-class aberration known as a hive tyrant. The protagonist wasted no time, ordering everyone to prepare for battle. Transforming his hand into a lethal weapon, he commanded the team to unleash their full power. Meanwhile, inside the Titan Hive, another behemoth-class monster, a hive overlord, blocked the path of a group of bloodhowl beastmen. One of the beastmen smirked, claiming the monster's appearance was the perfect opportunity to prove his loyalty to Lord Songdao. In another sector, Thousand Faces halted his squad, warning them that a hive corruption behemoth was guarding the cave entrance. He urged them to move cautiously, as they needed to secure the item before the military arrived. Back at the main battlefield, the hive tyrant let out a bone-chilling roar. Jin Ying gathered wind energy in her palms and released it, shouting, "Storm Blessing." A pale purple aura enveloped the team, granting them a protective layer of energy. With a signal from the protagonist, the team launched a synchronized assault. The monster's first strike swung toward Instructor Lim, but he stood his ground, activating his hardening ability to parry the blow. Simultaneously, Song Rui and another teammate unleashed electromagnetic annihilation. The combined force slammed into the beast, making it howl in agony. Seizing the opening, the protagonist leapt into the air. He executed a relentless series of claw strikes he called Storm Flurry, nearly severing the creature's massive arm. One teammate gasped in disbelief, amazed at how quickly they had brought down a behemoth-class foe. However, Song Rui noticed the protagonist's expression remained grim. When asked what was wrong, the protagonist replied simply, "Something is off." As Jin Ying approached the fallen body to investigate, the protagonist suddenly screamed for her to stop, warning that something was about to erupt from within the carcass. The scene shifted back to the Greenvine headquarters. Xiao Shui asked Mr. Hong Zhengyan if the council had reached a decision. Mr. Hong replied that while the council was undecided, he had classified information regarding her brother, Yan Hao. Xiao Shui bristled, asking if they would ever leave him alone. Mr. Hong explained that he was risking a council violation just to tell her this, mockingly offering to drop the subject if she wasn't interested. Enraged, Xiao Shui demanded he speak. He showed her a mission file on his phone. The military had appointed Yan Hao to lead a squad specifically to intercept the Titan Bug King. Xiao Shui was horrified. Mr. Hong explained that even within Greenvine, the Bug King was classified as an S-rank threat, yet the military had assigned the mission to a rookie who had just enlisted. It was clear, he argued, that the military was using Yan Hao's life as a sacrificial pawn to test the monster's strength. Staring at the screen, Xiao Shui realized that even with her full power, she couldn't control an aberration of that magnitude. She asked Mr. Hong if he was lying to her. He countered that he had no reason to. Greenvine valued Yan Hao more alive than dead. Xiao Shui narrowed her eyes, asking if he was telling her this because he wanted something from her. Mr. Hong Zhengyan extended his hand, stating that if she was willing to cooperate, they could achieve a much better outcome. Without a second thought, Xiao Shui agreed. In her mind, she had one singular goal: she had to stop Yan Hao from throwing his life away. It didn't take long. Before Jin Ying could even get close to the slain aberration, it suddenly moved. From within it, a gigantic butterfly emerged. At the very first flap of its wings, everyone instantly felt an intense headache, like something was exploding in their minds, causing them to close their eyes involuntarily. Right then, Song Rui realized this was a mental attack. The protagonist quickly advised them not to stare at the patterns on the monster's wings and to attack immediately before it could fully stabilize. But Jin Ying replied that it was easy to say that, but hard to do. The protagonist still attempted to attack, but in an instant, his vision went blank. It felt like something pulled him inside his own mind. He asked himself what was happening, and in front of him, a red figure slowly formed, a version of himself shrouded in dark and flickering energy. It smiled and spoke, saying it had been a long time since they saw each other, his other self. On the other hand, inside Song Rui's mind, he saw his uncle who seemed to be hinting at something. While inside Jin Ying's mind, she was facing glowing environmental parameters. She was amazed by them, especially the brainwave interference curves and energy maps. As those were slowly moving away, she was desperately chasing them, repeatedly saying to let her study them. In reality, they all remained standing, eyes closed, and seemed to have fallen into a dream. The first to wake up was Instructor Lin. He even cursed because of the feeling as if his head was hit by a hammer. He immediately woke the protagonist's friend and told him not to give in to the illusion. It wasn't long before he also woke up and was confused, saying it felt like he heard the captain call him useless, even though he just got merit. He shook his head and said that he nearly fell into the monster's mental effect. But he noticed that the others still hadn't woken up. Instructor Lin explained that perhaps they were too ordinary. According to him, the stronger the mental power or the deeper a person's obsession, the easier it is for an illusion to enter in this type of attack. Because their consciousness was shallow, it only required a strong shock to wake them. The gigantic butterfly flapped its wings again. Because of this, Instructor Lin decided to report to headquarters to ask for help, a mental type specialist and appropriate medicines. He, on the other hand, would try to distract the monster to reduce its effect. But before he could get close, the aberration unleashed a series of purple attacks like balls of energy. Before they could hit the protagonist, Instructor Lin quickly pulled him away, while the protagonist's friend shot the purple balls one by one to destroy them. Right then, Instructor Lin realized that a direct attack would not work. Each one needed to break free from the illusion in their own way. Inside the protagonist's mind, his replica spoke again. It showed itself and said that was their true form. It asked him if it wasn't tiring to suppress that power every day. The protagonist remained silent. Suddenly, his replica charged and attacked him. He did not retreat, he met its every move. In the middle of the fight, the replica used shadow infiltration, which felt like it could swallow the surroundings. The protagonist's annoyance was obvious while his counterpart continued to talk to him. It was forcing him to accept the power, just like the others did. It even said that if he did that, he could find Xiao Shui and achieve whatever he desired. But the protagonist was not swayed. He accepted every attack and slowly regained control of the fight. His replica backed away and asked if he was using poison. How could it fool him, it asked, when it knew his every move. The protagonist responded calmly, noting that his replica had been avoiding him this whole time, meaning it, too, was afraid of getting hurt. With a faint smile, he declared that he would never become like the shadow. His replica seethed with rage. In the next instant, the protagonist made the first move. His actions were swift and unwavering. Their attacks collided at a speed that was almost impossible to follow until the replica was finally forced back. Then, in one quick, powerful motion, the protagonist grabbed the replica's face. The replica hissed that he was insane, asking if he truly wanted to die along with his own power. But the protagonist's answer was steady: to find Xiao Shui and to ensure no one else would have to endure the same suffering he did, that was his reason. With that, he struck his counterpart with full force. The attack landed, and the replica slowly faded into the air, its face etched with disbelief as it vanished. Meanwhile, inside Song Rui's mind, he stood before his uncle. The figure told him that his progress wasn't bad, but that being weak meant being worthless. Song Rui silently agreed, admitting with a heavy voice that his uncle's power was indeed great enough to make anyone lose hope. But he immediately remembered what happened in Suyin town. When his uncle had killed him there, he hadn't just felt fear, he had felt an intense, burning rage. His eyes began to glow as his body erupted with violent purple lightning. He gathered a massive surge of energy in his hand and, in a flash, launched it toward his uncle. He shouted at the top of his lungs that this wasn't the kind uncle he once knew, this was a pathetic traitor. He vowed that one day he would grow even stronger and be the one to bring his uncle back. Under the sheer force of the attack, the image of his uncle nearly disintegrated. Afterward, Song Rui and the protagonist looked around, realizing they were trapped in a deep subconscious space. They recalled what military mentalists said: this kind of ability can separate consciousness from the physical body. To escape, it had to be destroyed from the inside and outside simultaneously. They tried to unleash attacks on their surroundings, but the protagonist grew frustrated. He couldn't understand the mechanics of the space and knew that if they didn't wake up soon, they would all be in grave danger. But suddenly, he froze as he heard a voice, one accompanied by a massive accumulation of energy. The voice commanded them to observe her wind vortex domain. Cracks began to spiderweb across the space. The protagonist immediately rushed to a crack and forced it open, realizing that Jin Ying was the one behind it. As the space shattered, it felt as if they were falling out together. In an instant, the protagonist and Song Rui woke up. Opening their eyes, they saw a massive tornado-like vortex slamming into the giant butterfly monster. Jin Ying exhaled in relief, saying her timing was perfect. She had started charging her energy while she was still being pulled under, and fortunately, she woke up just in time. The protagonist praised her, acknowledging that she had saved them all. Internally, he reflected on how terrifying mental-type monsters truly were, and how lucky it was that they were rare. He rallied the team once more, declaring it was time to end the fight. He asked Song Rui if he could pinpoint the monster's core location, explaining that the key lay in the patterns on its wings, they had to destroy its mental attack first. Song Rui nodded, telling them to leave it to him. He readied his weapon and aimed it at the monster. He could sense it was weakening, and his voice was clear as he stated the target was locked, there was no escape. At the same moment, Jin Ying clenched her fist and shouted to release the domain. In the next second, a massive explosion of purple energy erupted from Song Rui, streaking directly toward the giant butterfly. After the battle, they got back into their armored vehicle. Inside, as everyone rested, the protagonist was enveloped in a crimson energy. Jin Ying remarked that the parasitic relationship of a mental-type behemoth would be a great addition to her father's research. Instructor Lim asked worriedly if their captain would be okay after absorbing a behemoth-class core. Song Rui replied that he would be fine, explaining that the captain was pushing past his own limits and that his power might reach a whole new level once he woke up. The protagonist's friend said with a smile that this was actually the first time he had seen their captain's leveling method. Between that strength and the new shield Instructor Lim obtained, he felt much more confident. Suddenly, the protagonist snapped his eyes open and shouted for everyone to slow down. He warned them that they had company about 200 meters ahead to the right. Startled, Jin Ying asked if it was an aberration and wondered how he could sense it from so far away. The protagonist clarified that these weren't monsters, but people. Outside the vehicle, a man suddenly appeared and landed heavily in front of them. He shouted that they were military trash and that the road ahead was closed. The group immediately confronted the man. Jin Ying realized he was a beastmorph who still possessed his own consciousness. The protagonist asked who he was and why he was blocking their path. The beastmorph moved quickly, identifying himself as Bloodhowl. He mocked the protagonist, asking if they even had the right to interfere with their goal, adding that the egg sac belonged to them. The protagonist easily dodged Bloodhowl's powerful opening strike, and the follow-up attack slammed harmlessly into the ground. Bloodhowl taunted him, asking if he was just going to keep running and if he really thought someone like him could stop a Bug King. Before the protagonist could even reset his stance after dodging, Bloodhowl lunged again, screaming that he was going to kill him. Jin Ying shouted for the protagonist to be careful, but he didn't flinch. Remaining silent, he caught Bloodhowl's massive punch as if it weighed nothing at all. With a smirk, he remarked that the strength wasn't bad, but that was as far as it went. Shocked, Bloodhowl tried to retreat, but the protagonist instantly used shadow stealth and vanished from his sight. In a flash, the protagonist landed a devastating uppercut on Bloodhowl, following it up with a relentless barrage of punches. He scolded the beastmorph for having the nerve to block them with such a low level of power. As he was being beaten, Bloodhowl couldn't believe what was happening to him. Meanwhile, a shadow was watching the fight silently from the top of a tree. The observer was stunned that a beastmorph had been defeated in just a few moves. He realized right then that the protagonist had already reached the S-rank threshold and knew he had to report this to Lord Hong immediately. After that, the shadow vanished from his spot. Once Bloodhowl finally collapsed to the ground, the protagonist's friend was amazed, praising how incredible their captain was. To him, the fight had been incredibly satisfying to watch. The protagonist ordered his team to tie the captured enemy tightly and load him into their vehicle. To him, the appearance of Song Zhao's men in that area only complicated the situation further. They needed to find the Bug King immediately. A short while later, they reached the heart of the monster's stronghold. All around them, massive insect aberrations were swarming, and directly ahead, they saw the gargantuan Bug King surrounded by its eggs. Watching the scene, Song Rui realized this was indeed the primary nest. If they had been even a moment later, the size of the swarm would have become a total catastrophe. The protagonist immediately ordered everyone to keep their distance. He instructed Song Rui to use an electromagnetic pulse to disrupt their breeding process, while the others prepared for a counterattack. Without hesitation, Song Rui unleashed the pulse, which scored a direct hit and triggered a massive explosion. The Bug King let out a deafening roar, and every aberration in the vicinity heard it, instantly turning to swarm toward the group's position. Amidst the chaotic roaring, the protagonist commanded them to stick to the plan, attack and then retreat to lead the swarm away and avoid being encircled. Jin Ying moved quickly, unleashing a powerful wind vortex that swept away the flying aberrations. Meanwhile, other monsters lunged at Instructor Lim, but he blocked them instantly using their newly acquired shield. Beside him, the protagonist assisted by reflecting the monsters' attacks back at them. After that, the protagonist shouted for them to retreat, change direction, and continue the harassment. 2 hours later, the number of aberrations around them was still growing. Jin Ying reported that this was already the third interference and asked Song Rui how much longer until the chief of staff and the rest of the forces arrived. Song Rui replied that they were on their way with the vanguard force, so they just had to hold out. Meanwhile, the Bug King continued to roar, summoning its massive army. The group could only cry out in frustration, hoping the reproduction would finally stop as their situation grew increasingly dire. Moments later, with the Bug King looming above them, they were completely surrounded by a sea of aberrations. But in an instant, a voice rang out, telling them to leave the monsters to him. A massive surge of energy exploded, obliterating the flying aberrations overhead. They were stunned by what had happened. Within seconds, the chief of staff appeared above them, remarking that his timing was perfect. When the protagonist saw the sheer scale of the destruction caused by that single attack, he finally realized the true power of an S rank.
The chapter ends here. Watch out for our upcoming uploads. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you'll always be updated on our future videos.